Hello, welcome everybody. This is the MCP summer event at Bletchley AI User Group. We're online today, which is a little bit different to our normal environment. And I've got some lovely guests and I'll welcome them more formally in a little while. So if you're wondering what's happening next, I'm not entirely sure, but next month we have something named the Carpool AIoT. And we're getting in a car driven by Dan Boyles around Bletchley. This is a whole thing. Around Bletchley, various Bletchley sites, including both of the museums, so the National Museum of Computing and Bletchley Park Museum, and hopefully the Eight Bells pub and a few other places, whilst Phil and I and some special guests appear both virtually via the car's radio system and potentially even jump into the car. I'm thinking Stuart Ridout, being that he's super local. So this is what we're doing next month. It will be going up on the website tomorrow. And then the other super cool thing we've got is on the 23rd of September is our first session back. We've got the MK Tech Week event. So all of the guests are yet to be announced, but we've been confirmed as part of MK Tech Week. We are on the website on the 23rd of September, which is the Tuesday evening, 6 o'clock in the normal venue, South Central Institute of Tech in Bletchley. And then, as I'm guessing most of you know, this is Bletchley AI User Group, and you're very welcome today. Just to cover off that our mission is to empower everybody to use AI. So this is an inclusive group by design, so saying kind things. Our committee at the moment is myself and Paola. We are actively looking for a few more members of our committee, so do feel free to reach out to us on our LinkedIn and let us know if you'd be interested. And then the things that we're doing today are we're going to do some summer special version of Will's 1 Minute Wonders. He told me that we should not be here for the summer. So he's not joining us today, but don't worry, we've got some fantastic guests. And then we've got this MCP session with Daniel, who's going to explain all about everything technical, take us through it really, really gently, because obviously not everybody here has a deep background in all of the technologies. And then hopefully we can see if we've got any time for any of your questions too. So just quickly on our sponsors, ANS sponsor us, they simplify digital transformation. MS Talent, where Will comes from, sponsor us. They are a specialist Microsoft technology and sales recruitment organisation. Illuminate AI sponsor us with clearly a specialism in AI, as well as generative AI, Dynamics, Power Platform and Copilot Studio specialisms. And then Mazic Global are our final sponsor that I'm going to introduce you to. They are CRM and ERP industry experts, specialising in healthcare, manufacturing, public sector and education. So that is everybody else we've got. The next person I'm going to introduce you to is the amazing, if you wouldn't mind jumping on camera, Melissa, the amazing Melissa Hale, who you probably are more aware of being somebody from our Manchester user group or potentially from her last job. Melissa, do you want to tell us what you do now and a bit about your group? And then I've got your poster after as well.
Thank you, I'd love to. So I'm Melissa, nice to meet you all, and I work currently as a Dynamics 365 consultant at a company called Incypher. I just started there about 6 weeks ago, lovely, had a great time, and I build a lot of Canvas apps and Power Automates for our clients and your sort of general business automation and digitalization doodads. But my big passion at the moment is AI, which is how me and the lovely Steph got to talking in Talon earlier this year. And I was telling her how much I loved her Bletchley group and what they do and how it empowers everybody to use AI. And so we ended up starting the Manchester AI User Group, which is due to have its second meeting on September 9th. There it is. And we've got the lovely Dawn Kelso and 2 secret guests that will be announced probably tomorrow and at the end of the week, so keep an eye out for that. And if you head over to the UK AI User Group page, you can get this meetup group and you can sign up to join us in Manchester.
Before I jump onto Fernanda, can you tell us, it's the summer, right? So I know that last time I saw you, you gave me a book and you were like, this is one of the best books I've read, but can you give us a bit of your summer reading list?
I can indeed. I do actually have a very, very quickly put together presentation I can show everyone the summer reading list if that would be useful.
Yes.
just to give it, no, it's not just my face and the lovely AI poster, as much as we love to see Dawn and the two TBCs there. Just 1 second. Do need to learn how to share my screen on a call. I'm hoping that's working.
Yeah.
Perfect. So this is my AI summer reading recommendations. So my first one, which is the book that Steph's talking about, is Codependent by Madhumita Murga. She is an absolutely incredible writer. I actually read this in about a week while I was away in Spain this year. Could not put it down. The way it's written, the content in it, it's just fantastic. Really recommend. And Steph, I don't know if you read it yet, but just incredible. And the thing I liked the most about it is that it's the human side of AI, and it's how it's actually impacting people in real time. And it talks about, you know, people on the other side of the world, people in jobs that I've never even heard of, and their real life experiences, which are things that, you know, we don't get to encounter a lot on this side of the desk. So really loved it, really recommend it. Then the second book, The Coming Wave. I haven't actually finished this one yet, but it's been a fantastic start so far. And the really big important theme in this one is kind of about how with great power comes great responsibility for our Spider-Man fans. And, you know, using AI responsibly. And if you've ever heard Chris Huntingford, he has a whole spiel about it, which is really important, about AI ethics and why we need to be very careful with these powerful tools. And then my last recommendation, they are all non-fiction, I'm trying to be better with my non-fiction this year, is Life 3.0 by Mark Tegmark. And the way this is written is a really good sort of intro and a like stepping stone into AI for people who don't know a lot about it. Like myself, when I first read it, I didn't know the first thing. And it delves into concepts without making you feel stupid, which I personally like to be the stupidest person in the room, because it means I get to learn a lot. But this book didn't make me feel bad about being stupid. So they would be my 3 summer reads if you are looking for AI reads.
Oh, Melissa, thank you so much for that. Are you good to share those on the UK AI user group LinkedIn?
I can indeed. I'll do a little post.
You superstar. All right, I'm going to see if I can flip back to this deck. Oh, let me just whip through. Ta-da! Oh, and it's as if by magic, look who's appeared. Right, so Fernanda's one of the coolest humans I've ever met.
Oh,
and I love, and Daniel, if you're wondering why it's all women and you, it's because Bletchley was 75% female during World War II. Whilst they were doing the AI, conceiving AI thing. So I was like, perfect. So I saw Fernanda in Manchester and I grabbed her and I was like, please, please, please come on my call. Because there aren't many people who are AI adoption leads in large organizations. So Fernanda, can you explain what your role is, what Amy does? Because Amy's kind of conceptually quite hard for some of us to grasp. So let's start with that and then we'll dig into your more stuff.
Yeah, of course. And hi, everyone. Good evening. So Fernanda Souza, I work as AI adoption lead at Amy. And as you said, Steph, it's a role that's actually appearing a little bit more now, but I think there aren't many of us doing this job, which I think is quite pivotal, really, to ensure that AI is adopted effectively across organizations. Amy provides almost like a silent service that I think touches most of what everybody in the UK does every day. So we work with a lot of government bodies. We provide a lot of public services in the infrastructure space, whether it's maintaining or building new railways and motorways across the country. We also operate a few councils, Staffordshire being one, Trafford being another. And we also deliver a lot of work in the facilities management space for government. So we maintain all the prisons in the UK. We work really closely with the Ministry of Justice. We also work with the Ministry of Defence. So yeah, so although you might not know us, you probably touch one of our services most days. The role that I do, as you said, Steph, is AI adoption lead. And given the nature of the work that we do and the demographic of the people that work at Amy, my CTO identified that AI adoption wasn't just something that was gonna happen organically, and that we needed to be a little bit more intentional with how we supported our business to adopt these technologies to get the best benefit out of them. And that's what I've been trying to do for the last 18 months. I work really closely with the rest of my business to understand what training needs they have, where they really want to see AI projects being implemented, and work with them to understand whether there are solutions out there, and identifying whether we should be able to stand up a project on our own, and look at partners that can help us deliver them. And it's really, really cool. Like I didn't take the normal route through IT. I actually come from the business side, but I have a huge interest in AI and tech and how especially these technologies can bridge the gap that I suppose we have in terms of digital skills, especially at Amy, given the demographic of our employees.
Thank you so much. Right, Fernanda, this summer, what's on your reading list? What's interesting? What are you recommending? What do you think we should be doing as our AI adoption lead? Go for it.
I think one thing I'd recommend, and I'll pop a link to it in the chat afterwards, is the white paper that's been released all around AI fluency and how we can improve that across businesses, which I think is so pivotal. And I think particularly for us that work in IT, it's very easy to kind of take for granted the fact that the whole business needs to understand AI well enough to be able to adopt it. So I would recommend that. And I'm also about to go on holiday, so I'm looking forward to not reading anything AI related. So I'm taking a book called Life After Life by Kate Atkinson that I've heard is really, really good. I've been wanting to read it for ages and I haven't had a chance to. So I'm looking forward to sitting with you with a cocktail or just relaxing for a few days and, making, a good headway into reading that.
Is this non-fiction?
That's it. No, sorry, it's fiction, this one.
It's fiction. Oh,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
It's really good. Supposedly really good. I think it was a big bestseller a few years ago. I'm definitely behind.
So it's your time now for the summer to
That's
go,
it,
cool,
yeah.
AI's
Just
my
for a
job.
minute.
AI is my job. Now it's time to dive into family time, fun, and fiction reading.
Yeah,
Cool.
exactly. I think the trouble with working in AI is that because everything's about AI now, you can never really get away from it. So I probably need a book that was written 10, 15 years ago that has no reference to it just to take a break.
Super. Thank you so much for coming and so much for sharing today. We love meeting customers and finding out what they do in these spaces. Right, I'll let you hide your camera and get on with doing dinner time. All right, our next guest is the person that's going to fill up the rest of this session that we're running till 7 o'clock. Daniel, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Microsoft first?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Daniel Laskewitz. I am a senior cloud advocate at Microsoft, and I work in the Netherlands. I have been living in the Netherlands all my life, and I never wanted to move to the US or something. So for me, a role at Microsoft wasn't that logical, because every time I was in contact with people from Microsoft, they were all saying, you need to go to the US. If you need to really move to the US if you want to have a role at Microsoft. But I was in consultancy before. I used to work at a large consultancy firm. And during COVID, I got the opportunity to be a remote worker at Microsoft. So I work from my own home. I don't work at the office. I just do all the remote working I can do. And I am part of the Power Platform Advocates group. And that's the group that's being led by April Dunham. You might know April Dunham, of course. And I'm working together with Scott Durow and Eliza Benitez, who are also part of my team. And what we do is we create as much content as we can for the Power Platform. So we help people learn more about the Power Platform. That's also why I'm here, for instance, to talk about MCP in the Power Platform. And I'm going to show you a whole lot of things. But what we create content about the Power Platform, but we also get feedback from customers, from developers or makers in the Power Platform space. And whenever they have feedback, we bring that back to the product team. And then we try to make sure that they will improve their products with that feedback.
Super. I will pop the link to your LinkedIn in the chat so I can stop sharing your slide.
Sure. So yeah, I can move to my slides then.
So please do. I suppose our
my...
very first question is, what is MCP? Because this group is not necessarily just people who are in Microsoft technologies or just people who live and breathe some of those technologies. So are you all right to take us through that and then kind of deep dive us as far as you'd like to go? Cool.
Yes. So I've prepared a presentation about also the basics of MCP. So I'll talk a little bit about MCP, and then I will go into different experiences where you can encounter MCP, because it is everywhere basically. And I'm going to show you where you can find it and how you can work with MCP in the Power Platform. So let's move on and talk about MCP. And what MCP is, it's basically a protocol that standardizes how applications provide context to large language models. So you have different types of actors in the model context protocol. You have hosts, and that could be, for instance, Visual Studio Code. It can be Windows, it can be Copilot Studio. And then you have clients, which basically enable you to work with MCP. and that's GitHub Copilot, for instance. So you can expect that, for instance, when you have Visual Studio Code, you can use GitHub Copilot to add MCP to the experience there. And in GitHub Copilot, you can then use all the MCP servers. And that's the last actor in there. Clients can be GitHub Copilot. It can be Copilot Studio again, because Copilot Studio is both a host and a client, and Windows can be also part of that. And with servers, there are so many servers out there already. If you Google, for instance, on MCP servers, you will get tons of websites where they have lists and lists of servers that you can add. You can add, for instance, the GitHub MCP server, where you can, for instance, get all kinds of repositories, where you can open issues, where you can start a pull request. You can do a whole bunch of things. But there are also servers that interact with your file system, for instance. So when you have your machine, your PC, and you are working with that, and you want to interact with the files that are on your machine, you have a file server, for instance. And there are tons of others as well. As you can see here on this slide, you have Azure, you have Azure AI Foundry, you have Dataverse, you have Dynamics 365. There's a whole bunch of different servers out there. The main thing that you need to know is that there are two types of servers. You have STDIO, which is standard input output, and that's the one you can always use on your local machine. And then we have streamable HTTP, and streamable HTTP is the one that you want to use together with the services that are online. So, for instance, if you want to use something inside of Copilot Studio, you always want to have a streamable HTTP type MCP server. And that's really important, because what I just said about when you look for MCP servers online, so you go to google.com and then you look for MCP servers, there are tons of lists out there. And sometimes, or most of the times, those servers are STDIO servers. And when you, for instance, want to work with Copilot Studio, you can't work with STDIO servers. So you need to be aware, is this an STDIO server or is it a streamable HTTP server? When it's a streamable HTTP server, you can use it in Copilot Studio, and otherwise you need to use it locally. So you can use it in GitHub Copilot on your VS Code, Visual Studio Code on your machine, for instance. So there are some things that you need to be aware of before you start with that. But let's go a little bit deeper into what it actually does. So when you have an MCP server it can have a couple of different options. So it can have resources where you can have, for instance, files in there, etc. Content, you can add that through resources. You can also have prompts, and those are basically prompt templates and workflows that you can add to your MCP server. And the third part, and this is to me the most important part, is the tools part. And the tools part is where you can, for instance, connect to backend services and that kind of stuff. And lastly, you also have sampling, and that can have server request completions, for instance, from the large language models that you have. And what's really cool about MCP servers is normally when you are, for instance, working with, let's say, ChatGPT, and you enter a prompt inside of ChatGPT, you always have to type that again and again, for instance. But when you want to interact with backend services, that's when MCP servers come in, because you can have an MCP server, for instance, for GitHub. And when you add that to OpenAI ChatGPT, then you can use the tools that are in that GitHub MCP server. And that could be open an issue or close an issue or do a whole bunch of things. You can do that with the tools. And that's really, really interesting to see. And I can talk about this for ages, but I also want to show you something. So I want to show you an example of an MCP server that I'm going to show you. And this is a local MCP server. So that's one of the STDIO server types. So this is the one that you can use locally. So you can use it within, for instance, GitHub Copilot, but you can also use it in ChatGPT. You can use it in Claude, which is another tool that you can use in there. And this server is a really cool one because I am always working a lot with the Power Platform. And if you want to interact with the Power Platform, you can use the Power Platform CLI, which is a command line interface where you can write all kinds of commands. And when you do that, you can interact with the Power Platform that way. But it's not the most user-friendly kind of thing, because you need to know all the commands. You need to always ask for help when you don't know the commands, for instance. It costs a lot of time. And sometimes you want to have an option to just write in natural language what you want. And then when you do that, you you want the system to figure out what to use and when to use that. And that is the MCP server in this case, because the MCP server will translate what you are asking for to all the tools that it has in its server. And this is a really cool example because with the PAC CLI MCP server, what you can do is you can ask a whole bunch of things about your environments. You can ask to create an environment, to list environments, to delete environments. You can do a whole bunch of things there, but you can also use it together with, for instance, web search. And that's really interesting when you want to, for instance, enrich information that you get from that MCP server, and you want to kind of combine that in an answer. So for that, I would like to go into a demo and show you how that works. So let me switch to my demo, and here we are. So what I wanted to show you is that they announced this not too long ago. It's end of June that they announced this. And what's really cool about this is that you can add it to, for instance, Visual Studio Code. You can add it to Claude. You can add it to a whole bunch of different tools that you have locally. And then you get access to a whole bunch of tools. And currently they have 20 tools enabled. And then you can just chat with those tools. So you can say, well, I want to list all my environments, and then it will figure out which tool to use. In this case, it's environment list, for instance. And that's what you can do here. So let me show you how that actually works. So for this one, I'm going to use the Power Platform CLI MCP project that I have here. And this is Claude. It's one of the AI products that's out there. It's not a Microsoft product, but it's really cool to see that Microsoft is also working to enable those tools in other tools as well. So it's not just a Microsoft tool, basically. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start asking a question. So let me ask a question. What environments do I have? I need to check here in the search and tools bars first if I got the right thing enabled. And in here, you can see that I have the Power Platform CLI. And here you can see a whole bunch of tools that I have available. So that's all enabled. Let me send this one and see what will happen. And here I get a pop-up, and here it says Claude would like to use this tool. And this is the admin list tool inside of the Power Platform CLI MCP server that I added. And why this is basically because they don't want to run it immediately. You want to really approve that consent with it. What I can do here is I can say allow once, I can say allow always. In this case, I'm just going to use allow once, and then it will run that command behind the scenes. And I didn't have to type any command like pack admin list, for instance, and then I need to add a whole bunch of things. In this case, I can just write in natural language, what environments do I have? And it will give me a list of environments. It will also say which one is active, because within the CLI, you always have an active environment. In this case, it says that I have the DL/DV MCP environment available as the currently active one, but I don't want that. So I want to change this. So let's change this one and ask, can you switch my active environment to Daniel Laskowitz? Because I have a Daniel Laskowitz environment here, and I want to switch to that. So let's send that one, and let's see what that will do. Here it says it's going to use the tool environment select, and that is the command that I need to use for changing environments. And when I allow this, it will run this, and then it says, well, it's currently switched successfully. What's also interesting to see is that you can, these tools, these run behind the scenes, but you can also open it up, and then you can see how this all kind of looks, what it does behind the scenes, what the response is, what the request is, etc. And that's also really cool. But you can also hide it if you are not interested in all those technical details. If you want to keep it with natural language, you can do that as well. So let's go to my next part. I want to ask about the environment settings. And I want to also see if there are best practices that I don't abide to. So if I ask this one, I would expect to see some kind of report on what environment settings are basically wrong and what I should change. So when I hit send here, I hit send, it should start by asking for a tool, and I can allow that again. And when that happens, it will ask me again. And this is also the thing with MCP. Sometimes it will ask multiple times to run a tool, because when it fails, for instance, it will automatically be able to tell what went wrong, and sometimes it can even fix it. So that way you don't have to, you have to write all kinds of code to make that happen. It will kind of figure out, oh, I got this error, maybe I added something that was wrong, let me fix that and send it again. That is what's possible, for instance, in there. But what you can see here now is that it's, and this is the real power of MCP to me, is that you have a whole bunch of tools that it's using, and it's going to combine it also with web search. So what I have here is that it's also searching for a whole bunch of best practices that I was asking about. And it's combining the environment list settings with all those web results. And that's what you can see here. So you can see that here it's kind of showing me which settings I have set to the wrong thing, and I should enable that, for instance. So there's a whole bunch of things that I get here as an output. It's also referencing the certain Microsoft Learn articles that I have here, and it's also even using articles from community people like Matthew Devaney, who is one of the Canadian people who does a lot with Power Platform. And that's what you can see here. And at the end, it also shows me a couple of recommendations on what I should do on these things. So that's a short intro on one of the MCP servers that I wanted to show you today. So if we look in the Power Platform has also a lot of different MCP servers available. It has, for instance, a Dataverse MCP server, which is kind of the main MCP server in the Power Platform. And then it also has a whole bunch of Dynamics 365 MCP servers available that you can add to your systems. What's cool about the Dataverse MCP server is that it's not one of those STDIO servers. So it's not only locally, but you can also use it within your online products like Copilot Studio, for instance, or Azure AI Foundry if you want to. And that's really cool to see that as well. And within the Dataverse MCP server, you have a bunch of options that you can use. You can use search, for instance. So if you want to get all kinds of data outside of your Dataverse MCP or server, you can do that. You can query, you can create or update certain records, and you can use prompts in there as well. And yeah, to go a little bit deeper into that, an example, for instance, is when you want to run queries on a whole bunch of data, you can do that. You can use knowledge and search, for instance. You can use create and update records, as I said. So what's really cool about that is also that whenever you want to create records, it also needs to know the schema of those records, because every record or every table can have multiple columns. And when you have those columns, it can differentiate per table which kind of column you need to have. And that's why they also have a bunch of tools in here to get the schema of that table. And that will enable them to then create or update records more successfully. And that's also coming back a little bit to the example that I showed of Claude, where it was missing or when it was running the tool again because it failed. That's what this will also enable. So whenever you create a record, for instance, with the Dataverse MCP server, it might use a schema that's not correct, and then it will fail. After that, it will go into get the schema of that table, and then it will know all the columns that it needs to have to create a record successfully, and it will try that again. So that's the retry kind of thing that that I was talking about earlier. And you can also use it with prompts. So let's move into that demo, because I want to show you that as well. So let's go into the demo here. And now I'm going to go to the Dataverse MCP part. What I want to do now is I want to change something, because this is also the thing with MCP. I can enable all the MCPs out there if I want to, all the MCP servers, and enable them. But sometimes it can get in the way of each other, because sometimes it means that when you have certain tools that are kind of doing the same thing in different systems, it might get the wrong tool. So I always like to disable and enable the different tools when I need to enable something else. So in this case, I disabled the Power Platform CLI MCP, and I'm going to enable the Dataverse MCP. And now I can ask those questions about Dataverse, for instance. So I'm going to start with a simple one. I'm going to start with get my Dataverse tables. And when I send that, it should ask me to run a tool. Here it says Dataverse MCP, so I know it's getting the right one, and it's going to use the list tables tool. And when I allow this, I can wait until all the Dataverse tables are there. There's a whole bunch of tables in there, but it shows me that there are a whole bunch of tables in this Dataverse instance. And it shows me not all of them, but it shows me a summary of them. If I want to, I can also go deeper into this and ask for all the tables if I want to. But in this case, I already know enough. The next thing I want to do is I want to use one of the other tools that we have. So within Dataverse, I have an account table and I have a contact table. And in this case, I want to combine the large language model that I have here, and that's the Claude large language model, and I want to combine that with the MCP server. So what I want to do is I want to generate 2 account records using fake data. And what I said here was make it clear by adding sample at the end of the account name. On top of that, add 2 fake accounts to each of those accounts and link the company to those account records. So what it's going to do here is it's going to create those records. It's going to create 4 records. It's going to create 2, it's going to do more actually. It's going to do 2 account records, and it's going to do 4 contact records. So when I hit send, it will start working on that. And it's going to try first creating a record. And when I click on allow once, it should try it out at least. And then it's asking me again to allow this. And it's successfully created the accounts already. And now it wants to use the contact records in there. And here it failed actually. And how I see that is because it gave me the describe table part. And the describe table tool is the describe schema basically. And that's what it wanted to do. And now it's creating it again and creating another record. And should create another one. Here it's saying it's creating contacts without the account in there and then updating it later. So it's going to run it separately. I'm just going to click on allow always to make it a bit easier. So it seems that the accounts are created here. And it's added 2 different accounts with sample behind it. So it created Tech Solutions Inc. and Global Manufacturing Ltd. Sample. And those are things I didn't figure out myself. I didn't create them. I didn't create any names for it, etc. So this could be really interesting if you want to create test data in your system, for instance. And here it says that it also created some contacts in there. It says also something about that the account contact linking didn't work very well. So they were created, but aren't automatically linked to their companies. And this is something that it also shows you. And it is also an important thing because sometimes AI can also do it wrong. And in that case, you always want to check it, of course. So make sure to check this. But I can show you for the backup. I already created that earlier. That it did work for those for a couple of those contacts that I created earlier as the first part of the this demo. But this is something that can be really helpful in some cases as well. me move forward with the slides. So we were talking earlier about the MCP servers, which types of things you can add to an MCP server. So resources, prompt, tools, and sampling. When you are using your custom MCP server, so when you create your own MCP server, so you don't use the Dataverse MCP or the GitHub MCP or Power Platform CLI MCP, and you might want to add that to Copilot Studio. You have to be aware that in Copilot Studio, currently only tools are supported. And to me, that is the most important part. So I think this is still totally fine. But when you talk about these tools are really interesting to use in Copilot Studio. When you look at all the MCP servers that are already in Copilot Studio, there's a list that is out of the box already available, and it's growing almost every day. Because I took the screenshot earlier today, and earlier tonight, earlier this at the end of the afternoon, I already saw there was one extra MCP server in there. So you can see a lot of the MCP servers that I just listed. So the Dataverse one, Dynamics 365 ones. There are some Outlook MCP servers. So if you want to use in Copilot Studio Outlook, so you want to maybe do something with email, send an email, or list the top 10 emails that you got from the last month or something, or you want to work with contacts in your contact list, you can do that as well as third-party tooling. So you can also have the DocuSign MCP server, for instance, or Azure parts as well with the Custo Query MCP server. And there's also a Microsoft Learn MCP server that's really interesting as well, because that can help you sometimes when you want to problem solve something, for instance. So when you want to learn more about a certain Microsoft technology, you can use the Microsoft Learn MCP server to get documentation or something. We had a bunch of updates in Copilot Studio lately to improve the MCP experience. What I just showed you before was only in Claude, how you can do that. But in Copilot Studio, you can do the same. What we can do there, for instance, is we have a list of tools. So at the right side, you can see tools, and then all the different tools there, like list tables, describe table, etc. So this is a list of all the tools that the Dataverse MCP server, for instance, has. This was not possible until a couple months back, for instance. They created that tool listing, and now you can easily see what that tool actually does. Before you had to go to the documentation page to find that out, but now you can also see that inside of Copilot Studio. What's also really cool now is that you can see in the analytics, you can really easily see what it did, for instance. So you can easily see all the different tools that are there, how long it ran, etc. You can click on all the tools and then see exactly which tool has ran and how that looks. Because when I go to the next one, you can see here what it actually did with that tool, for instance, and what the results were, what the inputs were, etc. So it can do a lot more analytics in there. Another big improvement was streamable HTTP support. So before there was another type of server, MCP server, which was SSE, server sent events. That was the shorthand for it. But we had STDIO and server sent events before, but server sent events wasn't really ideal. So they replaced that with streamable HTTP, and that's way better than the SSE type of server. And of course, we improved also a lot of quality to make sure that it works even better and that it works better inside of Copilot Studio. So within Copilot Studio, we have two things now. We have MCP servers and we have connectors that we can add as tools inside of Copilot Studio. And I got a lot of questions from people like, why should I use MCP servers or why should I use connectors? What should I choose between the two? And it is actually fairly simple because an MCP server inside of Copilot Studio is also a connector. It's a connector action, actually. So it's not really a versus scenario, but it's more of a and scenario. You still need connectors for a whole bunch of things. So yeah, it's not versus, but it's more of a and. You still need to use connectors and MCP servers together. You can easily create a MCP server, and when you do that, you can add it as a connector action. And you can then use that inside of a connector, or you can add it to an existing connector if you want to. And you can import it really easily. What's really cool about this is that when you use an MCP server inside of the Power Platform, so you import that as a connector, for instance, you already benefit from data loss prevention. You can use authentication, you can use virtual network support, and you can also certify your MCP server if you want that. So if you want to be in that list that I just showed you with all the different MCP servers inside of Copilot Studio, you can certify your MCP server as well. And this is not something that is out of the box available for MCP servers. This is only for when you put an MCP server inside of Copilot Studio or inside of the Power Platform. You benefit from those different options. And data loss prevention is, for instance, really interesting if you want to make sure when you open up an MCP server for the whole organization that you have, and you might have 10,000, 20,000 people in your organization, or you might have 100, they can do a whole bunch of things with those MCP servers. And sometimes you want to block the usage of an MCP server or a connector for those people because you don't want them to use that inside of your apps and etc. Yeah, the easy creation of MCP servers is also a really cool one because you can now import from GitHub. And I'm going to show that in a couple of seconds because I'm going to do that in the next demo. And this will enable it to really import an MCP server really easily. And we enabled this a couple months back as well. But before I do that, let's talk a little bit about the differences between the MCP servers and connectors. So MCP servers for now only work in Copilot Studio. You can't use it in Power Apps, Power Automate. I think Logic Apps is coming soon, but connectors are available for Copilot Studio, for Power Apps, Power Automate, and Logic Apps. So you have a lot of products that you can enable it for, and MCP servers is not that widespread yet. You can add multiple tools at once. So whenever you go into Copilot Studio and you add an MCP server to it, you don't have to add every tool one by one, but you get the whole set of tools that you have in your MCP server, and they will be added to your agent, and your agent will be answering questions on those tools, or will be performing asks actions with those tools, for instance. So there's a lot of things there. You can have the agentic capabilities without configuration, so you don't have to write any extra text in there. It will all be in the MCP server, and that means that the MCP server will figure out which tool to select based on your on the prompt of the user, basically inside of Copilot Studio. When you add or remove a tool, you don't have to update it, and that's something that you have to do when you do a connector. When you want to add an extra action, it is extra work, basically. And you have data loss prevention on server level. So an MCP server can be turned on or can be turned off, one of those. For connectors, you can do that on action level. In the future, I will expect that Microsoft will add different data loss prevention so that you can also do it on tools level, because sometimes you have a tool, one of the tools that you don't want to enable for your users. For instance, with the Dataverse MCP, which I showed you just now, you might want to have a data loss prevention policy where it will only let you read all the contacts inside, or the accounts inside of your Dataverse environment, and not write something to your Dataverse environment. Those kinds of things. You need to be aware of that as well. We have built a lab for getting more familiar with MCP inside of Copilot Studio. And it will enable you to run your MCP server locally, so you can use it within, for instance, Visual Studio Code or inside of Claude if you want to. Then you can connect it via dev tunnels, which is more of a tech thing, to Copilot Studio. But you can also deploy your own MCP server to Azure and then use that inside of Copilot Studio as well. And this lab, and I will reference that later in the resources as well. It's a really easy way to go through that, and I'm going to show you that in the demo now as well. So go to the environment. So I will share this link in the resources. But what we have here is a whole lab about how to work with MCP, how to create an MCP server, how to run it locally and deploy it to Azure. And you can also, at the end, you can also use it inside of Copilot Studio. And it's really a step-by-step guide. You don't have to build the whole MCP server because the MCP server is already built. So it's really easy to get going, basically. And let me just go here now. So I already deployed the MCP server from the lab into Azure, just to skip a couple of steps, because normally it will take about 5 to 10 minutes before it's deployed. And I didn't want to have you waiting for it, so I skipped that step as well. But I'm going to copy the URL here so that I can use it inside of my Copilot Studio here. And I already created an agent inside of Copilot Studio, and it's called a jokester, because I'm going to add an MCP server that can tell jokes. And when I want to add the MCP server, I need to add a tool. And next, I need to add a new tool. And for now, and this is only a temporary thing, in the future, you will have the option to just click on Model Context Protocol and then enter it there. But for now, we need to go to Custom Connectors. When I go and open this one up, I can click on New Custom Connector. And as I said, we can import from GitHub. So what I can do now is I can click on Custom, I can click on Dev, and then I have the option here to select MCP Streamable HTTP, which is the type of MCP server that I want. I can click on Connect or Create. And what I can do now is I can, let's call this Jokes MCP server. And what I can do now is I can add the host URL in here and giving me an exclamation mark because I need to remove the HTTPS in front of it. And this is basically how it works. I can just click on Create the Connector, and it will start creating the connector. And this will hopefully take not that long. Usually it's just a couple of seconds before it's there, or 10 to 20 seconds. There we go. It's already created now. So we have the Jokes MCP server. And now I need to refresh in Copilot Studio. And let's see if this one will already be there. Not yet there. Let me just refresh. Usually it takes a little while before the server is there. So check if it's already there. This was, by the way, what I showed you earlier. When I took the screenshots, there were only 12, and now there are already 13. So the Box MCP server, Box is another place where you can host your files. You can add that also to Copilot Studio if you want to, now as an MVP server. Hope it get going now. No, not yet. This will take probably a while. But in the meantime, I can show you a little bit more. So what you normally would do is you would import it, and then you would create an agent. In this case, I skipped that whole part with the jokester. And then when you are at the tools part, you can add the tool. You can search for the jokes MCP in there. Then you can add that. You can create a connection to make sure that it can connect there. And then after it, you can add it to your agent. And then in your testing pane, you can add a whole bunch of questions if you want to about, can I get a Chuck Norris joke or can I get a dad joke? And then it first will give you a question to have additional permissions in there. So you need to connect that. And then from there on, you can ask it questions and it will give you a response there. So if you want to have a dad joke, it will give that as well. Oh, don't let Will hear this. Yeah, he loves it. That was actually why I did that. No, but let me try it one more time to see if I can do that because we're almost running out of time. No, it just will take a little bit longer, I think, till it's there. But you're more than welcome to try it yourself. So let me switch back to the slides so that you actually know where you can try that yourself. Oh, I added a QR code here. When you go there, I have added all the links that I used in this this whole demo, basically this whole presentation. So there are links to all the different parts. So the Dataverse MCP, you can use that. The Power Platform CLI MCP. It also shows the latest one, the lab that I shared as well. So there's a whole bunch of things that you can use from there. So I'll leave this on for a little while. But that's about it. So if you have any questions, let me know.
I think people need to post them in the chat if they've got any questions.
Jokes are awesome. Okay. No questions?
Shall I wrap up then?
Yeah, let's wrap up. Thanks everybody for being there.
So much. That was brilliant. So useful. And I cannot wait to get onto those GitHub repositories and start having a go with all of this work. I'm abundantly grateful to you, to Melissa and to Fernanda for coming and sharing some time with us in the lovely Bletchley. I hope at some point you can actually come to visit us in Bletchley. It's a really special place.
I would love to be there. I have it on my list for a long time because I know also there's a Bletchley Park event in September, I think.
There's a collab days
days, yeah, but it didn't work out this year, so I need to come at some point, and I really need a reason for it.
Collab days is right in the middle of MK Tech Week.
Oh.
So we'll try next year to align it a little bit better and make sure that kind of everybody's together for some things, so it makes a bit more sense for everyone to travel over and kind of have an amazing time. I'm going to wrap now. Thank you all so very, very much. We will be back on the 26th of August at 6 p.m. I'm going to try and work out what the best technology for doing AI karaoke in a car with Dan Boyles is, because I'm not going to feel confident that I know what the answer to that question is. So it feels like a Dan problem. And then we'll be back in person on the 23rd in Bletchley. And Melissa will be back in person on the, I hope she jumps off mute now to tell us when she'll be back in Manchester and what the venue is.
On the 9th of September in the lovely ANS offices, and bonus, it's the all-day Power Platform user groups on Manchester 10th, so you get a double whammy. And
amazing.
That's at U92?
UA92, yeah.
Yep.
Super. Thank you all so very, very much. See you all soon. Bye, bye, bye.